Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another webinar from the Philips Lighting Academy. Today's webinar is titled Smart Lighting Solutions as a Catalyst for Smart Cities. It is presented to you by Elke and Ouden from the Eindhoven University of Technology.
Hi all, thanks for being here this day. I indeed will present today how we look at smart lighting solutions and also how they can be of interest for the transition towards smart cities. I will use some examples of projects that we have been involved in and of course we'll give some background in what lighting could mean for this transition and what it could mean for quality of life in the city in general. So I'm looking forward to also the questions that you have and also to the poll questions that we will have in the session. But first I will introduce a little bit about my background. I'm at Eindhoven University of Technology. I'm in the Department of Industrial Engineering and Innovation Sciences and basically looking into how we can develop new businesses in public-private value networks. So that already means that we believe that innovation in the future will not be something that is solely happening in the R&D departments of a company, but that it will have to involve public-private networks as well, both big companies and small companies, as well as organizations of the public organizations. And because that is a rather vague term, we try to focus it on solutions for smart lighting and smart cities. And in the university, we therefore have the Intelligent Lighting Institute and the Data Science Center in which we do this type of research. This takes about 2 days of my week. The rest of the week I'm involved in all kinds of projects where we try to implement those thoughts into practice. So valorization projects for external clients, which is in many cases also collaboration between municipalities and companies that try together to implement these type of innovations. But first I would like to kind of share with you the way we look at the smart cities and where we stand in what we want to do. In the smart city sector, there is a lot of new technologies coming available. And the interesting thing these days is that they are not only looking into improving the functionality, for example, better lighting at reduced energy consumption, but they also at the same time can improve livability by making cities more vibrant and more sustainable. So where normally we have to work with a trade-off, if you want to achieve something, then usually you have to accept something else that is more negative. We believe that these smart solutions really can do both. So both functionality as well as livability at the same time. But that's not always happening per se. If you look at the next couple of slides, you see how many companies take a look at smart cities. So this is an example of IBM. There is also examples of Tronic, other companies. Intel is presenting its smart city vision, and Cisco, of course. But they have one funny thing in common, and that there is really a lack of people in these type of images. So what we really believe is that smart cities should not just be technology push, but they should really contribute to quality of life of people in the city. So it's rather odd that they do not show up in these type of pictures. So what's happening at this moment is that cities all over the world are being covered in sensor networks. There is lots of sensors being implemented everywhere, being it cameras, could be sound sensors or fine dust, presence sensors, things like that. But in itself, these sensors do not make a lot of sense. So we really want to see how can we use these type of technologies to to really improve the needs of people, to improve quality of life. So what kind of technology does really serve the needs of people, and what services will really increase quality of life? And we see lighting as an opportunity to really add value to a city and to increase quality of life. And it adds basically to these sensor networks a kind of actuator that you can use in smart city solutions. But to make that happen, we have to understand a little bit how we look at smart solutions. We developed a layered model for these smart solutions to get a good understanding of how we want to work with it. And the bottom layer of this model is the infrastructure. It's basically a dense network all through the city where energy and data can be available and where you can plug into this network. And the things you want to plug into this network are the devices. These could be sensors, these could be lights, can be all kinds of things that you want to use in your smart solution. And then there is the layer of ICT, the data and the software applications that you can develop to make useful applications for people. But this all still is very much technology, and where we want to go is services. So what kind of services can we develop for the societal stakeholders that we have? So what are the needs in the city, and how can we develop a service that makes sense? And by doing this, we basically connect two things. We really want to connect the societal needs and the technology enablers into meaningful applications. So that is how we take a look at smart lighting and smart city solutions, being able to develop these 4 layers together to really make sense to the city. And this is all still pretty abstract, but we do have some practical examples of how we could do that. And I will show you 2 projects that we have been involved in to explain it a bit further. The first one is Amsterdam. We did a smart light project, and it's actually still running, in Hoekenrodeplein. It used to be looking as you see in this picture. It's a pretty worn down square, you would say. In the Netherlands, it's not very attractive, it's not very busy either, although it is very close to the Amsterdam Arena and Ziggo Dome and other very busy areas in the city, but it doesn't feel very attractive over here, so people do not like to stay there. So with the city of Amsterdam, we discussed the needs, and basically there was anyway a sustainability need there. The city wanted to improve the lighting to reduce energy use, become more sustainable, also to reduce the light pollution. Amsterdam is in the Netherlands one of the cities that literally light up if you look from space. So they want to contribute also to the reduction of light pollution. And they think that light on demand could be a kind of service that makes sense in this square. But they also think that flexibility of the lighting system for different use of such a square could be of use, and therefore also contribute to sustainability. So in evenings that it would be used very heavily, the square, the light could be on for longer, and on the other hand, if you have nothing going on, then the light can be more dimmed, and if nobody is there. The second need that was identified is safety. The image of the Bijlmer Amsterdam Southeast area is not very positive in that sense. There has been quite some crimes, so crime prevention could be something to really take care of. And as I mentioned, in the neighborhood of these squares, there is a lot of crowds sometimes, and also on the square, especially when there are big football matches or music events. in the area, then it can be very crowded. But sometimes there is also an event organized on the square itself where you would like to manage the crowd in a way that it stays safe. So these two are the more straightforward ones. The third need that was identified is hospitality, where really the idea is that the social safety and social cohesion in the area should be improved, that the square should be able to attract people and to trigger them to stay longer, to make it a pleasant place where people really want to be, where they want to meet each other, where it's nice to stay. So these needs have been identified, and in the project we have been discussing like how can we solve these needs with a smart lighting system. So the solution that was developed was adaptive lighting, and basically what it means is that we would like to create an atmosphere that suits the different circumstances on the square. That means that this is a square where on this side where you see the entrance to the square, all the way to the other side where we are standing now, so to say, is a kind of commuting way for people that use the Amsterdam Belmer train station when they go to work or come back from work in the evening. So this commuting lane is important. So during, say, the normal hours that people go to office or come back, it should be safe and easy to walk there. On the other hand, in the evening, as you can see over here, when there's nobody around, the light could dim to reduce energy consumption and also to reduce this light pollution. But then the idea was that to make the square more attractive, we could develop these kind of light spots where that can basically react to the amount of people on the square and where they are resided. So if a group of people is somewhere, then the light there will make it a pleasant place to stay. And if more people are coming, then the lighting will adapt to that. So you can see that the lighting in this image in the middle top is say tuned to the amount of people that are over there. So basically the system is pretty straightforward. There is a number of lighting poles that have these kind of spotlights on there that look like birds on a tree, so aesthetically it's also nice. And as you maybe can see in these trees, we also have cameras to monitor the amount of people on the square so that we can dim if nobody is around, and that we can gear up the light when people are there and make it a very cozy atmosphere in the evening to make it attractive to stay and walk around. And in case there is a calamity, then the police can really gear up the lighting to a high level and then see what is going on. If there is, for example, an emergency need, somebody fainting or a fight, then they can easily find the place and go there with the people that have to provide services then. And also the idea is if you gear up the light to these high levels, then people will find it probably not as nice any longer. Some will leave. And if the amount of people is back to what is regarded as a safe number, then it can turn down to, say, the normal lighting. So in that way, we can accommodate the lighting all the time to the use of the square. So it can be either leisure, it can be events, or it can be commuting on the square. So if you look at this type of solution, then basically you see that the way it's done is a kind of a shift from products to services. So where in the past you would just look at the lighting system and install it, now you install a system that enables you to create any desired ambience for any moment. So the ambience creation is then more of a service, but that also means that we have to understand more in depth which type of lighting scenarios will indeed attract people, and also together with the restaurants and cafes that are in the surroundings of the square, we would like to see how do they perceive hospitality as well as the visitors of the square. So it is a project that then requires more thinking than just looking at the light levels at the different corners of the square, but really looking into how is the appreciation of the different stakeholders of such a solution. And then the question is, of course, if you do this, who would be the person that should invest in these type of systems? And that is the first poll question that I would like to ask to you. Who would you think that should invest in these type of lighting systems in public space? Is that, as it is normally, the municipality? Do you think a lighting company should invest in that? Or do you think that the people that own hotels, restaurants, cafes and shops near such a square should invest in the system, or maybe even citizen communities? So many of you believe, most of you actually, 48% believes that the municipalities should invest in these solutions. I will not discuss that now in detail, but we will keep this answer with us also for the next question. The interesting thing is, second in line is for 10% the hotels, restaurants and cafes that should invest in such a solution according to your answers. But before we go into depth in that, I would like to go a little bit further in this project, because at this point we discussed that we have this system now up and running in Hoekenrodeplein, and we had a discussion on what else can we do with such a system to increase hospitality. And there have been brainstorms on what could be done, and typically the context of this square is that it's pretty close to the Ziggo Dome, a big music hall in the Netherlands where huge music events are being held. Also, the Heineken Music Hall is very close, and the Amsterdam Arena, that next to football matches also hosts big music events. So music is typically something that is very much happening in the context of Hoekenrodeplein, although the square itself at this point in time does not really benefit from that. So the idea that looked very promising was to actually make Hoekenrodeplein into a kind of a foyer for these big music events by using the lights and the cameras to create a virtual music stage. So by an app that we then have to develop, you can book a certain time slot of the stage, the virtual stage. Then the spotlights and the video cameras will be running. You can do a performance with your local band, or if you're any type of talent that would require a stage, then you can have your show over there, and it can be directly streamed to YouTube, and other people can look at it. So you kind of can book airtime on the square as one of in the evenings, for example, that there is a big event going on the other side. You can be in the program prior to these big events. So you get an opportunity to stage local talent, and maybe this could really increase the attractiveness of the area and make people come specifically to the square and make it a really lively place. So this type of innovation, you don't need very much additional investments because the lights were already there, the cameras were already there, not for this purpose, but for the purpose of counting people. But it's not a big change if you have to change the purpose to recording this video and send it to YouTube. So basically the extra investment that has to be done is to develop this application so you can book the stage, that the lights can be turned on if you have booked the stage, and that this content can be streamed to the application and to YouTube. So that is an additional investment. And the next poll question that I would like to ask you is, if you look at this again, then who should be investing in such service? Would that then be the municipality or the lighting company or the hotels, restaurants, cafes and shops, etc. in the neighborhood, or the citizen communities? So this is basically the same question, but now for this music stage as a service. Now we see a shift. So now only 25% of you, we still have around 36, and it was 38 of people that gave no answer, but for the ones that answered, now 25% says municipality and 29%, so a big increase for the hotels. And that is something that we have been discussing as well. So what would be the business model for these type of lighting services? Because they go far beyond what the role of municipality could be. So traditionally, their role was to guard, and still is, I would say, to guard public interest, to ensure that there is a good access and affordability to public services for all income levels, and increasing the quality of life in the city with innovation for public interest. But the question is if these type of services are also something that municipalities have to take up, or should that just be a company, any company, because they should not compete with commercial companies as a municipality. And that is actually also related to who is now going to invest in these type of services in public spaces, and what could be the new business models. So we already discussed a little bit that we shift from physical products to services. So now it's not anymore a municipality buying lamps, but we we provide the service of hospitality to this square. There is more stakeholders now involved, so it's not just public lighting for public safety, but the bars, the hotels, and the restaurants also benefit. So they could maybe become customers. But how are we going to develop this? Are they willing to pay for that? Is this a business that is interesting, recurring smaller income from services? If, for example, you look at traditional lighting systems, then companies like Philips and other bigger companies have been working on bigger projects, and this is a recurring very small income. So that is the question. Is that something that could work? Could these hotels do that, or are people that are visiting the square willing to pay for these services? So there's potentially also a business where the users of the system might want to pay for such a service. So that takes me to the next poll question. Suppose you are visiting Hoekenrodeplein and you are able to book this music stage for a 20-minute performance because you're a very talented performer. Would you be willing to pay for, booking this stage? Or you say no, not at all, so it's nothing? Or would it be something between 50 around 50 cents or 5 euros or dollars. We don't bother about exact details of the numbers now. Or would it be in the order of 50 euros or $50 for a 20-minute performance that will give you access to stream your music on YouTube straight from the square? So I would like to know your answer. Would you be a potential customer for such a service? So it's a bit like the discussion that we have with applications and apps. Some of them are free on your smartphone and others you will want to pay for because you really value them. So one question would be if there is really a market for people to use such a solution. And we have an interesting score here. 15% is not willing to pay. We have about 12% that's willing to pay about 50 cents. 28% is willing to pay 5 euros or $5, and 11% about 50. So there is, if we are really the target group, that's always the question in these things, there is a business opportunity for smaller revenues in such a solution. And that is really giving rise to the discussion that we have by now. Should a business pick up this type of services to deliver to, say, people visiting such a square? And is it possible to, next to the, say, the investments that will be done then probably by the municipality, to really set up a business that is sustainable with these kind of services? And honestly, we are not clear about it yet. In a couple of projects, we're trying to see if anyway the service would attract more people, and if it really would improve the liveliness of such a square. But we are not sure yet if that will be sustainable in a way that that over a number of years people really won't be using these type of services. So that is a transition that we are currently very much in, and questions that we have in projects like in Hoekenrodeplein, if this transition to service is really a new viable business in public lighting. So thank you for your answers, and indeed it gives some courage that there could be a business, but we have work to do to make it happen. The next project that I would like to share with you is in Eindhoven, the south of the Netherlands. There is a Stratum Zijnd. It's a pub street in the city that has the highest density of pubs in Europe. So it's a very lively area. You could say in a way that it's having an event that hosts about 20,000 people every week. So safety and crowd management are typically things that are very important over here. And as in many pub districts and entertainment districts all over the world, when there is such an amount of people with their fair share of drinks, there is eventually also quite a lot of aggression. And we are working as a university together with the municipality and Philips and a couple of other organizations to see if we can really use light as a mediator to de-escalate aggression levels. So in this project, we try to diffuse escalating behavior through interactive lighting scenarios. So with different organizations, we're using a living lab on the street to use light to diffuse escalating behavior and to avoid aggressive incidents in the street. So we try to reduce the number of incidents that will happen. So first I would like to explain a little bit how we believe that could work. There is quite some research in labs, we should say, that show that you can actually make people more relaxed with light. So, for example, by slowly pulsating lighting, you can get people from a very aroused and tense state to a more serene and maybe even sleepy state. So relaxing is one thing you can do with lighting scenarios. Another thing that you can do is make them feel more happy and more pleased. So light has also a positive effect on people if it comes to their mood. A third thing that light can do is that if people are literally in the spotlight, it increases self-awareness. So people are more conscious on what they do and how they act and how they behave if light is there. So you can also say there's research in that side that duties prevail over wishes in a bright room, and in a dark area it's the other way around. So people behave a little bit worse in the dark. Then this is bright versus dark, but there's also research on what color can do. And one research focused on the influence of color on the perceived attractiveness. And if you look at this lady, then the question that was put to people is how attractive is she? When this picture was shown on a red background, as you see over here, or when this same picture was shown on a white background. And then you see that red increases the perceived attractiveness of this girl, and not only this girl, basically anybody. And the same thing happened to the type of shirt that people wear. If a strong guy wears a blue shirt versus a red shirt, then he's perceived to be more attractive, more sexually desired, and having more status in a red shirt. So this is how color can actually influence the way we look at things. We tried some experiments at the university, also in terms of low or high color temperature lamps. And in one of this research, we gave people that participated in our research, which had nothing to do with lighting, the opportunity to give their donation when they left our research. And we asked that in, say, a warm lighting setting and in a cold lighting setting. And in the cold lighting setting, people donated less than in the warm lighting setting. So it is not only the mood, but also the behavior that you can influence. So for Stratum Zijnd, we were also looking into how can people perceive social situations and what is the effect of color temperature on the social appraisal of an ambiguous situation. So you see here 4 pictures of situations that you can not exactly say up front if they are good or bad. So each picture can be a story that is saying a good, say, a warm relation between these people, or they could be a cold relation between these people. So to give one example, these two, this couple sitting on a sofa. In the case that we showed the picture in warm lighting setting, the people were reacting with reactions like this couple are cuddling cozily on the couch when suddenly the boy hears something. So that's how they explain this picture in a warm lighting setting. And the same picture in cold white light says the girl just really offended the boy and now he feels angry and sad. So the people looking at this picture give a complete different meaning to the same picture in warm light or cold white light. And that is what we want to use also in Stratum Zijnd. Another experiment that we did to kind of see if it's only the way people look at the picture, but if we can also influence behavior. We did an experiment at the cashier of the restaurant in the university, where the cashier was sitting either in a warm light setting, so the lux levels were the same, but in this case she was sitting in 27,000 Kelvin, 2,700 Kelvin, and in the cold white light of 5,600 Kelvin. And we were looking at the reaction of people and the way they interacted with the cashier when they had to pay for their food at the register. And the interesting thing is that in warm white light, the facial expressions were positive. People were smiling more often, where they were having more frowns and more negative expressions in cold white light. Their overall impression was more positive during the interaction in warm light, so we also had an exit questionnaire to see how people perceived it. But what's really interesting was that they were really giving more courtesies in warm white light, so things like when something dropped, they were more eager to pick it up for the cashier or things like that. So it really impacted the way people behave. And that is what we want to mimic in a way for the DE-escalate project, but then in public space. So we installed, Philips installed the colored lighting in the whole length of the street, that we can use dynamic scenarios with different color settings to see if we can influence the behavior of people. The way to measure this is, of course, a very tricky one, because not all evenings are the same, and there is in real life a lot of influences that can also influence the behavior of people. For example, if it was a very bad or very tough exam week, students might react differently than when they just had a very easy exam and they passed it all. Same holds for football matches. If PSV has won the game or lost the game, that will influence the atmosphere on the street. And there could be things like weather and all kinds of influences that are there. So to be able to do this research, we, together with the municipality, set up a living lab where we are collecting all kinds of data and see if we can find correlations between these influences and the way people behave, and therefore also to see what kind of lighting scenarios really do have an effect. And this also means that we kind of see this as a base camp that can also connect us to smart city solutions. So the city of Eindhoven having this ambition of being a smart city and a smart society would really want to see how we can develop solutions that contribute to this quality of life, but also see how we can use open data in a way to validate these type of solutions in reality. So the type of information that we collect is like different things like, of course, temperature and weather conditions. 3D sound measurements are being done. Bluetooth and MAC addresses are being tracked to see if people return and how long they stay at the area. Cell phone count and where people come from. Video people counting is being done. All kinds of things that we can connect from the internet. Also events, for example, but also open data, information from residents, and things like social media watching are all integrated into this living lab as a data collection to see if the effects are there. And of course, a very important one is then the police and the health facts, the amount of emergency things that happened and incidents that happened on the street. And of course, when setting this up, we really look into ways how we can do this with respect for the privacy of the people that are visiting the street. And we are looking for ways to really validate the results in a way that it's also possible for the designers of the lighting scenarios to see if certain effects really work. And therefore we are also working on real-time data visualizations to see if, for example, where the density of people are, in this case the red dots, you see where it's more dense, and that is also for the police important information because most of the incidents happen when there is a high density of people. And then you can dim and brighten the lights as these are, for example, shown to be more bright than these others where it's not so busy. So in that way you can kind of, if you have a real-time data visualization, you can also look for real-time interactivity with the system. So that's the way we try to move forward, also by having an open source web-based platform and applications that can be built on top of that. And that's basically the first steps, because as we discussed in the beginning, the way we aim for smart lighting solutions to be is that we really want to improve the sustainability of the solutions by using light that is only there when it's needed, and on the other hand to improve quality of life by in this case making the street more safe, and in the case of Hoekenrodeplein to make it more attractive for people to stay. So we're looking for benefits of real value adding services with this lighting, but as I also mentioned, we are still struggling to find a good business case to see if there's really willingness for people to pay for these type of events and who are really the beneficiaries. So like in the case of Straat am Zijnd, there will be savings in the amount of emergency services that are needed if we are successful in reducing the amount of incidents, but that's a very indirect value that we will have. So the question is if you can really use the savings that are done at that end to improve lighting in public space. So I think that is the struggle that we are still in. So in a way we can paint any desired lighting condition, so we can deliver lots of different services that make sense to the specific area that they are designed for, but we're not there yet if it comes to proving that they really work. That is in reality a challenge. And the second thing is figuring out how we can really make a business with these type of solutions.